Mayor, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I'd like to welcome everyone in chamber to the, and those watching at home, to the council meeting of Oro-Medonte for Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. A couple of housekeeping matters to identify at the beginning of the meeting is, could you please silence your cell phones at this time in order that that doesn't interrupt any presenters or communication throughout the meeting. And when anyone comes to the mic to give a deputation or presentation, and council members, please make sure you're speaking into the end of the mic, as this meeting's being recorded and live streamed for those people at home and those who watch it after on YouTube. The Township of Oro-Medonte acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people and ancestral territory of the Huron-Wendat. The Anishinaabe include the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. It continues today as the home for diverse Indigenous peoples, including a historic Métis community in Penetanguishene. The Anishinaabe people continue to have an enduring relationships with this land, specifically the Chippewas of Rama First Nations, the Chippewa Tri-Council, and the Williams Treaties First Nations. The Huron-Wendat Nation also continues to pay respect and protect the ancestors and heritage on this land. We honor the Indigenous history and culture that has thrived for millennia in the territory and the treaties that bind us together as partners in the spirit of a shared, sustainable, and prosperous future. We are all treaty people. Our commitment begins with acknowledging the truth so that we can move forward together towards reconciliation. Miigwech. Madam Clerk, may we have a draft motion to adopt the agenda, please?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Young. Be it resolved that the agenda for the council meeting of Wednesday, June 11, 2025 be received and adopted as amended to withdraw item 18C, Sean Bin, CAO, George Fedaboncourt, Manager, Planning Special Projects, reposition, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, intermunicipal relationships, provincial facilitator.
Thank you very much. I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. May we have a motion to go past 4 hours if necessary, please?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Lavoie. Be it resolved that Rule 14.20A, as per the procedural bylaw number 2023-043, be suspended in order to allow the meeting to proceed past the 4-hour adjournment requirement, if necessary.
All in favor? That is carried. Does anyone have any pecuniary interest to disclose at this time? Councillor Shell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. Item 12A and 18B both are dealing with STRAs, and I will leave the room because I own and operate an STRA.
Okay, thank you very much. Noted. Any other pecuniary interests to declare at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. Closed sessions will be dealt with under item 18 today. Excuse me. May we have a draft motion for the May 28th draft minutes, please?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Hutchison. Be it resolved that the draft minutes of the council meeting held on Wednesday, May 28, 2025 be received and adopted as printed and circulated.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any comments, corrections? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. We have no recognitions of achievements to announce at this time. I'm sure there's been lots of achievements, but we will save them for another meeting. No public meetings, so we're on item 8, which is deputation presentations. So I'd like to welcome Deb Watson, the board chair, and Megan Wilkinson, Chief Executive Officer of the Orillia Library, to come forward regarding the 2024 annual budget, our report, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deb Watson. I'm the chair of the Orillia Public Library Board, and we're very happy to be here this afternoon. I'm with Megan Wilkinson, who is our CEO, and she's going to be providing for you some of the highlights from our annual report for 2024. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next slide, please. So we have our 2024 annual report, which just is kind of a snippet of some of the wonderful things that our library and communities are doing together, did last year. So I'm just going to highlight a few items because it would take much longer than the 10 minutes I have to go through them all. So I'll just highlight some of the things that we're really proud of. Next slide, please. So first up is how many visitors we had in 2024. We were up just under 18,000 visitors from 2023. So we saw over 209,000 people in the library in 2024. Next slide, please. And our communities continue to check both physical and digital collections out. We are still seeing high numbers, higher circulation stats than pre-pandemic, which is important to note because we did see a pretty big, steep increase during the pandemic, and it has plateaued, and we're still higher than pre-pandemic, with e-resources predictably increasing a little bit more. Next slide, please. So our Makerspace and our Human Service Coordinator programs have added to our programming at the library, which increased our programs to over 5,000 offered in 2024. This let us engage with more than 34,000 individuals during that year. These are programs like early literacy, digital literacy, Nerf night, one-on-one tech help, so many different types of programs that meet the needs of all of our communities. Next slide, please. And we have very curious communities. We were asked 26,000 more questions in 2024 than in 2023. And these are beyond simple wayfinding, where's the washroom questions. These are questions looking for services in the community, assistance with book recommendations, research assistance, local history requests, technology help, much meatier topics. Next slide, please. And with summer coming up, our 2025 TD Summer Reading Club begins July 2nd. Last year in 2024, we saw 717 individual children and youth participate in this program. They reported more than 2,400 times with our staff. This is a great way to increase reading engagement and reading comprehension. So it's a very well-used program by all community members. Next slide, please. And after a decade, we held our final award-winning Remembrance Day event. This fantastic event included collectors and historians who provided interactive opportunities to learn about our history. So through the 10 years, we saw more than 13,000 students and other members of the public. So we're sad to see it go. We'll still offer something to recognize Remembrance Day. It just won't look quite as big as it has over the last 10 years. Next slide, please. And we were so thrilled to receive the 2024 Minister's Award for Innovation in recognition of our Human Service Coordinator program. This is an incredibly important program, and we are very fortunate to be one of the very few mid-sized public libraries that have this role, and this role that's permanent in our library. So this position does many, many things, but just a few of the roles is to provide system navigation, outreach, programming, one-on-one assistance to anyone who needs it. It's often thought that it's just for those experiencing homelessness, and that is not the case. It's for all community members. So we see youth coming in, we see families looking for services, we see newcomers to Aurelia. So it's well used by all community members. And our children and youth staff created an early literacy program, Mini Kindies, to help enhance school readiness. One parent commented that they were worried that since their child did not go to daycare or preschool, they would not be ready for kindergarten. And following the program, they felt that the Mini Kindies program offered her child valuable social experiences and early learning opportunities, which helped transition that, smooth the transition to school. Next slide, please. Our emerging technologies librarian created and presented What the Heck is AI? This was in response to many community questions about AI. And it was very well attended, and participants came away just a little bit less scared about AI. Still lots to learn, but it was an important program, and we'll continue to offer programs like this. We also added the Makerspace to our TD Summer Reading Club lineup, and this allowed opportunities for teens, children, and families to see what the Makerspace can offer. The majority of programs were kept free, so they were accessible to all, and this was funded mostly through grants and donations. And we see many families in our Makerspace. That was a bit of a surprise to us. One of my favorite things is going on a PD day, and you see so many grandparents and grandchildren creating in there together, usually with the 3D printer. Next slide, thank you. And finally, the OPL was grateful to participate in the 4th annual Community Walk and Gathering. This event began in the library parking lot, where elders led a smudging ceremony, and we remembered the children who were taken and lost at residential schools. We walked to Coochin Beach, and elders encouraged walkers to smile because we were remembering together. The walk concluded at the park, where I had the privilege to read the Orange Shirt story to the crowd. So thank you so much for hearing about some of the wonderful things that the library and our communities have done in the past year, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilkinson. I want to commend the library for all the great work you've done. I was fortunate enough to sit on your board last term, and it's amazing the work you do with the limited budget dollars that they all are. And the library has evolved to more than just a place to go get books to read. All the activity and programs you run are definitely a great asset to keep our young minds active, right? So I'll open the floor at this time for anyone for questions or comments. Councillor Barb.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you, and thanks for coming, Megan. I just want to echo some of those sentiments. Having a kid about to go away to university and a kid that's just got her first big girl job, and I'm so excited for her. They spend a lot of time at the library as kids. As a high school teacher, you can see the kids that have been to the library, kids that work at the library, and kids that use the still as teenagers, and it's just really a wonderful place, and I encourage people of all ages to go to the public library. I guess more of a specific question though, we're familiar with the Makerspace. Maybe if you could list a couple of the things that are available within the Makerspace to the general public that could help them with, you know, preparing for a birthday party or even their own businesses, etc. Please and thank you.
Yes, through the chair. Thank you so much for that. So our Makerspace is still fairly new. We have lots of new equipment in there, which is wonderful. We have a large scale printer, which has been very popular with birthday parties. So you can print out giant posters. That's also very helpful to small businesses in the areas. They have come and used that so that they can do some promotion in their store windows. We have a Glow Forge, which is a laser cutter. And so we've had businesses create small like keychains and things like that that they've been able to give away as promotional items in their store. We have a Cricut, so you can do some t-shirts or bags that, again, many businesses in the area have made good use of. Children always come in, they like our button machine, our button maker, but that also works for small businesses too. And of course, our 3D printers, they were so popular, we actually had to add 2 more. So we currently have 3 3D printers that were funded through grants because they were just always in use. And that's pretty widely used. Again, children really like them, but small businesses can find some uses for that too. They make prototypes on them. And we just received funding for technology to begin a memory lab. And so people have so many items on cassette tapes that is starting to deteriorate. So we have been able, well, we will be able to purchase items that can help to digitize pictures and preserve audio on cassettes, or we already have one that does video cassettes. So we're slowly adding to our makerspace every year.
Deputy Mayor Lavoie?
Yeah, thank you very much for your quite inspiring presentation. I just wanted to comment that, you know, the library was an important part of my young years, and I think the biggest innovation they had was the Dewey Decimal System. But, and I think I returned most of the books, I'm not sure. But anyway, thank you very much, and it's great to see how many programs you're offering and how integrated you're becoming with the community.
Thank you.
Councillor Hutchison.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, and thank you very much for the presentation. I just have one question with regard to the program that you had for Remember and Stay that has run for the last 10 years. I'm a big believer in keeping those memories alive, particularly for the next generation. So could you explain to me why you're paring that down?
Mm-hmm. So this event was done in partnership, again, with many historians and collectors, and one in particular who provided quite a bit of that memorabilia is retiring. So we've lost that connection to that part. So we really had to take a look at what we could do without this individual. And again, we will do something, just it won't be a program that spans, 4 or 5 days, which becomes a bit challenging.
Supplemental?
Thank you. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a national program called the Memory Project, but that may be something you want to look into because they can help you find speakers, veterans to come in and provide their perspective and their experiences. So that might be something you want to look at.
Thank you. I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Any other comments at this time? I guess, and not to put you on the spot, what would be your immediate goals for 2025 into 2026 for the library? Do you have some kind of targets or objectives that you'd like to fulfill within the next 12 months?
Oh, that's a big one. So we do have some staffing ones. Of course, we know that behaviors in the community are becoming more and more challenging. So that has been a bit of a priority for us to make sure that staff are fully trained in de-escalation, first aid, that we run, we've created safety procedures and we run those drills because we know if we have safe staff, it means we also have a safe community because we're responding appropriately. So that is one of our priorities for this year and into next year is really ensuring that we have a well-rounded program. Our makerspace is always, again, because it's so new, that is something that we are trying to grow. So we are working with schools to bring some of them in as well to do visits. So to get more kids into the makerspace and small businesses as well.
Good. No, that's fantastic. And I really do commend you because I know, as all public libraries, it tends to draw a lot of unfortunate people that are have mental illness or are homeless, right? And they're looking for a place. And it's your staff has always been very. You've taken a proactive approach to make sure your staff can handle it in a very calming and de-escalating manner. So, there's a lot more to be part of the library staff than just checking out books. It's multifaceted now. So I want to commend both of you for all the great work you do and wish you all the best moving forward. And thank you for taking time coming today to present to us.
Thank you so much.
That applause was for you. It wasn't for me because they've never applauded for me. So thank you very much. So Madam Clerk, do you want to just do both of them at the end and receive both rather than, or you want to receive one at a time?
They are separate drafted motions, but
Okay.
we can do them
Well,
together at the end.
No, I'll make it rather than a long one. Can we have a motion to receive, please?
Thank you. Moved by Bard, seconded by Shall. Be it resolved that the deputation by Megan Wilkinson, Chief Executive Officer, Aurelia Public Library, re 2024 Annual Report be received.
All in favor? That is carried. We're now at item 8B. I'd like to welcome Carrie Warner of Able Consulting regarding the community, Couchiching community safety and well-being. Well, you're already there. Good.
I am.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
You're
Inspired by the library presentation because I think there's a lot of synergies there.
yeah, no, perfect. So please continue when you're ready.
So thank you very much to Council for having me here. I'm very pleased to be here. Happy to be here in person. Last time it was over Zoom because we were just kind of post-pandemic, so I always like to be in person if possible to make those connections and to maybe bring some energy to the presentation a little bit, even though we're talking about some challenging topics. So again, my name is Carrie Warner, and I'm a consultant from Avail Consulting, and I was the consultant that has refreshed your 2025 to 2029 Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. So maybe we'll move to the next slide. So for the next few minutes, we're going to take a look at, I'm not sure how familiar Council is with the community safety and well-being, but we're going to do a crash course on it. The importance of this planning, the rationale behind it, how the plan was informed, the focused area of risk that you're going to find in the plan, the strategies and how we landed on them, and then how the plan will be action monitored and reported on. And that's going to be really important because I think it was a bit of a swing and a miss the first go round. And so I think that we have to recognize that and think about how we do it better next time and propose next steps. Next slide, please. So, why are we doing this planning? Well, there is a legislative requirement behind this plan, and that's really for municipalities to lead. And I know there was some question marks about that early on when these plans came out. Are we the right ones to be leading this planning? And I think when we look at the role, we can see how it makes sense, but it's certainly not something that municipalities take on their shoulders alone. This is certainly a collaborative community effort, and it has to be given the topic and the nature of these plans. So we are meeting a requirement for sure, but beyond that, even just listening from some of the pieces of the library presentation, we know that there's really complex social issues that are taking place in our community now. And these are really interconnected and sticky, kind of messy social challenges, and really that is what's driving kind of behind these plans. We know these plans came about because police are often responding to the majority of their calls are not criminal in nature, there's no chargeable offenses, and they're really kind of social disorder calls. So what do you do about that? So when we look at the framework, that's the colorful bullseye, half a bullseye there, the ministry is really asking us to look across 4 domains. They're asking us to consider what do we do in the emergency kind of crisis response. Then just outside of that, what do we do in intervention, prevention, and then we get to the green, social development. That's where we're making policy changes and you're really changing the trajectory in community around some of these challenges that people have. So the municipal role in that certainly is to prepare, develop, adopt, and implement these plans, but really it's through the partnership of all of your community partners. We know that the legislation also asks that these plans be reviewed and revised as needed every 4 years, and so that's why I'm here today. We've hit that 4-year mark, and certainly, I have some colleagues across the province that do very kind of niche work like this, like myself, and there's really fantastic plans that were produced. The first round of plans they look great, they were well-intentioned, lots of great strategies, everybody was really motivated, they stemmed from the right place, but with no money and no resources, it's really hard to kind of get these things off the ground. So with changes in staffing, changes in mandates, sometimes the priorities and the directions shifted. And so with that being said, going into this refresh, I was, pretty tough on how we would be looking at this refresh and what would kind of get into the plan and what would not get into the plan. And if it's not in the plan, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just means that what's in the plan, we're going to be able to track and monitor. So we've built some infrastructure into the plan to address that. Maybe we'll go to the next slide, please. So how this plan was informed, it was kind of, if you break it down into 3 big buckets, it was kind of data and documentation review, consultation and engagement, and then strategy setting. So the documentations that we reviewed were lots of, certainly municipal plans, tables, collaborative tables, if they have mandates or strategies or work plans. And then the data, we refreshed the data that we had from 4 years ago, and then we looked to see if there's any additional data that we could be looking at. And that's where you'll see in this plan, although it's not identified as an area of risk, there is a priority around data because it's really important. That's how we're going to be able to demonstrate impact and hold people accountable as well. So we did targeted engagement of key providers and groups, Ontario Health Teams, Poverty Reduction Task Group, Mental Health and Addiction Collaborative Tables, various tables that exist that kind of, center their work around these social determinants of health. We did an online resident survey, we did an online provider survey, certainly asking different questions, but along the same lines of how people are experiencing and how they feel about these situations in community, and then providers, what they're seeing, kind of emerging trends, what they're forecasting, and what they need help with. I think we can move to the next slide. So the focused area of risks, two of them you would have seen all three you would have seen in the previous plan: housing and homelessness, mental health and addiction, and access to services and supports. We know that they have not gone away. In some cases, they've been exacerbated post-pandemic, and so certainly there was a strong desire to see them refreshed again as strategies in the plan. Next slide, please. So we're going to spend a few minutes, well, maybe not a few minutes because I only have 10 in total, so we're going to talk really quickly through this slide, and I'm going to draw your attention to the right at first. And you can see that in this plan, we've clearly identified what are county-wide strategies and what is your local strategy. And if you think, well, 4 strategies, that's it for a 4-year plan, you could do a whole plan on just housing and homelessness, you could do a whole plan on just mental health and addiction, and these are very big strategies. So they are going to take some effort and time and a lot of collaboration. Now, when I say countywide strategies, I'm not suggesting that it's the county always leading them. It just means that they're going to appear in each of the 6 refresh plans. But how they look locally will be different in each community, in each sub-region, because you have different partners and you have different community assets and you have different needs. So an example of that is you have a human service coordinator at your library, other communities don't. So that's a community asset that we can draw and leverage on moving the work forward. If we look at this proposed strategies and just a little bit of a breakdown, I'm gonna have to put my glasses back on because I'm at that age. Here we go. We can see that there's one around housing and homelessness, and that's really focusing on prevention supports and reduction strategies around homelessness. And the bullet points are kind of how we're going to action those. And so, centralized outreach teams, shelter and supportive housing. So looking at how we use those beds and move people through those beds, case conferencing and navigation tables. The next one is a mental health strategy, and that's really focusing on transitional aged youth. So that's youth aged 12 to 25. And we know that youth in that age range can easily fall through the gaps, especially if they leave high school and they don't have a destination for school or for employment. They become almost invisible. And sometimes when you transition from 18 or from 17 to 18, you're no longer a youth in some programs, you're an adult. And so that's where it's kind of a bit of a messy middle. And so there's certainly an interest to align the service providers and the services to make sure that there's no gaps, because we know that there are some gaps right now in that. So that's why it's an integrated collaborative strategy. So it's looking at getting all those partners that kind of have touch points with youth in that age and making sure that they cross over and that there is seamless pathways for youth as they move through the system through services and supports. The next one is, again, it's not an area of risk, but it is a priority, and that's speaking to the data approach. There was no formal data approach in the first plan, and I think that was a real missed opportunity. And I think you're going to see across the province more people recognizing that you need to have something formalized, because it doesn't just happen unless you articulate it, it doesn't just magically happen. So I'm very excited about that, because I think that's the way council will be able to track the progress of the plan. And I think that's, we were a little shy in that the first 4 years is, the feedback and, so what is happening with the plan and how are we moving it forward? So I think that will be rectified through a couple of means. One, making sure that every strategy has a lead agency, has identified partners, and within the first year, they're going to identify metrics that we're going to be able to track, and that will feed into the data plan. So these strategies, I don't go in detail in the plan, but in the back end, I can tell you that these strategies weave together. And so that will accelerate and amplify all of the strategies. And then the last one is kind of your hyper-local or your place-based strategy, and that's really around gateways to mental health. So you think, well, why is it under access if it's talking about mental health and addiction? Many of these strategies they cross-pollinate with these areas of risk. But if I had to put it in one area, it's around access, because that's the focus of the strategy, is how people access mental health and addiction supports. And so this strategy is a collaborative approach. We have partners identified, and they're really going to be focusing on how they align and they identify entry points into the system. So if you were to look up mental health and addiction supports right now, just Google it online, lots comes up. But how do you actually access and navigate that? I think people are overwhelmed, and I think you heard that even through the library presentation. People are wondering, how do I access services and supports? So there's certainly an interest in identifying kind of clear entry points into the system, clarifying referral processes and navigation tools, and also especially in this community, in this plan, something that I don't see in the other plans is a real appetite for self-booking. So people to kind of self-consume and self-access and book into mental health and addiction support. So that's something I'm very interested in tracking in this community. Next slide, please. So how this plan will be actioned. Now that we have, very clear strategies, the expectation is that the lead agency for each strategy will coordinate the activities, track the progress, and report the progress back to the designated community. So in the plan, you will see that there is a GMCC, or Geographical Municipal Coordinating Committee, a little bit of a handful there, but that's really where you have the representation from each of the municipalities and the detachment commander from the OPP, and it has been supported by myself up until this point. And so that is the governance group. So they're not the boots on the ground implementing, but they're the ones that will be the group that gets the updates on the plan's progress. And I think that this group, it's fair to say, can expect more timely updates and very clear updates that they can then, package and present back to council so that you're in the loop as well. And depending on what the GMCC feels, at a minimum, I expect that progress and the report back will happen annually. Next slide, please. So proposed next steps, pending any edits or amendments, recommendations from council, that the 2025 to 2029 Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan will be adopted on or before July 1st, 2025, and that will put you in legislative compliance. And I've been scanning because I'm just looking to see who's got the first ones to get their plans refreshed. And I will tell you that some municipalities, not in Simcoe, all of them had their plans done, but there was quite a few around the province that didn't meet that first milestone marker of July 1st, 2021, and so they're a year behind, and I know that the government hasn't looked very favorable on that. So it's great that you'd be in a position to be able to say that you have got your plan refreshed on time. And then after that, should you adopt your plan, then you're required to post it digitally within 30 days of adoption. And that's the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Warner. That was definitely information that it's a new way we're dealing with things, but it's an important part of definitely keeping our communities safe and protected. So any questions from members of council at this time? Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And thank you very much for the presentation. It's extremely informative. Can you explain how this is funded? And,
I would love it if you could explain how. No, it's not funded. So how I'm funded, if you're asking how I'm funded, the county has supported the municipalities for the past 4 years to originally retain me to develop the plans, and then recognizing that there is a significant coordination piece, for each of the municipalities that have plans. And so I've, kind of light touch supported the coordination throughout the past couple of years. But as far as the activities, the strategies, none of that is funded by the government for anybody's plan in the province of Ontario. And so when we looked at the refresh, in the first plan, there was a lot of, like I say, it was well-intentioned. There was a lot of great ideas and real needs in the community. And these providers, they weren't making this up. This was real needs, and they saw, these are things that we need to do. But when you don't have the ability to resource it, it kind of just sits until you get that magic money to do something about it, and sometimes that doesn't ever happen. So in the refresh, we were really strict as to what made the plan. And some of these things are initiatives that kind of have seeds planted already in community, and through kind of articulating them in the plan, they're going to have that ability to kind of scale and grow, because we've now kind of brought partners on board and solidified some action around it. So these strategies are all going to take place unfunded, but through the support of either in-kind contributions through different partners, committing to doing these different actions, that's how it will take place.
Okay, may I ask a
Supplemental?
follow-up, please? Yeah. So if there's no funding, how is there resources? I'm a little trying to catch up on that concept. And it's the overarching governance body is the county? And and I see that there's 4 municipalities to which this plan would apply. And so the information would flow to them through which body? To us?
Through the chair to the council. So the GMCC, which is the kind of the governance group for this plan, which is made up of representatives from each of the municipalities, plus the detachment board commander,
right,
and lightly coordinated and supported by myself, is the governance group that would be bringing back the reports to council going forward. So how they get that information is through the work of the local strategies, pulling that information together and then sharing it with that group. I will note that there is also, it's in the legislation that for these plans you have to have an advisory body of subject matter experts, and they lay out who must be on that advisory body. And so we do have an advisory body that covers all of Simcoe County, and these are your EDs and your leads from some of these organizations like child welfare, mental health leads for youth, Ontario health teams. We have 211. So while they don't govern the plan, they advise on the plan. The county supports the coordination of developing and implementing the plan, but they're not responsible for it. Upper tier municipalities were not responsible for these plans. So it is that local governance group, the GMCC, that is going to be bringing that report back.
Okay, thank you very much. And if I just might ask that staff provide us with some briefing on how this all works in case there's some sort of finance hole that we find ourselves in. And I'm very happy to hear this presentation because obviously this is a legislated obligation that we want to make sure that we fulfill. So thank you.
Any other questions at this time? I guess, Donna, sorry, I missed you.
Mr. Mayor, through to the deputy. So the governance committee that Carrie was referencing does have representatives from each of the 4 municipalities. At this point, there has not been any financial request, nor do the services that are identified typically fit within the services that are delivered by the lower tiers. So it's really an opportunity for oversight for those organizations that have that as their mandate within the municipality. So as Carrie has mentioned, there are a number of organizations that is their focus. How their funding is put in play is not really at the municipal level. So we will report back to you, but I'm not anticipating that there would be any financial implications to the lower tier municipalities aside from staff time.
So I'm just trying to help bring some clarity how like county, because I see counties being one of the main. There may be I don't want to say because it's not it's an overlap, but it's a collaborative effort with county and this committee, right, and the OPP. So it's a collaboration of a number of groups, and so who takes the lead out of those multiple bodies?
I can answer in answer to the mayor. Taking the lead to operationalize it would be also in the plan. There's like a local table, and they are not governing it, but they're making sure that the strategies all connect. Up until this point, the county has supported myself to make sure that everybody's moving in the right direction. That would never be the responsibility of the local governance group because it just would not be reasonable or feasible. The county, because of the services that they deliver, are highly engaged in the strategies of this plan when we're talking about housing and homelessness, and we're talking about, children's or community services. So they certainly have a vested interest, and they're very happy and interested in supporting this work. So because it's a little complex, there are a couple of different bodies or groups that all have a role in making sure that this plan kind of gets off the ground and delivered. And so I think that, I've been very conscious of that in the refresh of the plan to be very clear. And there's, I think, a page in the plan that says, this is what this group does, and you probably saw that. But I can see how if you're not in the weeds of it every day like I am, it could seem a little complicated, because there's kind of the overarching county-wide, a little bit of an umbrella, I want to say oversight, soft guidance, advisory, and then there's the local governance of your plan and what gets reported back up to council.
Okay. And are there, like, how many boards like this within the county of Simcoe would there be? Is there like 4 more, 5 more groups similar?
There are 5 that I've been working with for the past 4 years, I guess. And then Barrie has originally did their own plan through a different consultant, and they operationalized it. I didn't really track that because it wasn't in kind of my wheelhouse, but I have just recently completed Barrie's plan for them, and they do have their own small kind of governance group as well. And I anticipate through, now that we have a data approach, there's probably going to be a little bit more alignment back in, and that's a good news story.
Okay, oh, perfect. Any other members at this time would like to ask questions? Ms. Hewitt, do you have any more? No? Okay, no. Well, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing the success and everything that we get done in the next 12 months. And we got to start somewhere. And I think you've got a good plan in place to see some great results in a short period of time. So thank you. Madam Clerk, may we have a motion to receive, please?
Moved by Young, seconded by Clark. Be it resolved, 1, that the presentation by Curie Warner, Avail Consulting, re Kuchiching Community Safety and Wellbeing CSWB Plan 2025 to 2029 be received and adopted as presented. 2, that staff be directed to update the township's website accordingly.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to identification from the public of an agenda item of interest. Is there anyone in the audience that would like an agenda item moved up sooner?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would ask that you move up 11E.
Okay, thank you. So that was Mr. Sandy Agnew has asked that 11B E. As you can say, my hearing is evolving or devolving as I get older. So it was E, correct, Mr. Agnew?
E.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move that up, and before we move to that item, we'll now go to open forum. Madam Clerk, is anyone registered to speak during open forum?
Yes, we received 1 registration. Irina, to be in person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you could just come to the mic, adjust it so you're speaking directly into the end of it. Give your name and please continue whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Mayor, councillors. My name is Irina Lawrenson and I live in Ward 3. I was compelled to come here today to publicly support the motion in item 11E, authorizing the mayor and the deputy mayor to enter discussions with the County of Simcoe to formally recognize the Oro-Moraine as a core municipal infrastructure asset and a green infrastructure asset. Having lived in this area for well over 30 years, I have seen significant growth, which is understandable, but increasingly worrisome, especially in light of its impact on the Oro-Moraine. I am concerned about the province allowing the extraction of large amounts of water from the Oro-Moraine for mere pennies a day. I am concerned about the inordinate number of quarries in the township extracting aggregate, when it's purported that the province already has 13 times more gravel than is needed. And I am concerned about developers clear-cutting land to build residential communities. There are a lot of pressures on the Oro-Moraine, specifically the water of the aquifers and discharge and recharge rates. Small springs that come up on the Oro-Moraine and turn into brooks and then rivers that flow down to all of our neighboring communities. Kempenfelt Bay in Barrie, Lake Couchiching in Orillia, and even as far as Georgian Bay are already being affected. And what starts here impacts on everything downstream. And yet the changes to our official plan by the past council, in conjunction with bills introduced by the province that severely restrict conservation authorities, make protecting the Oro-Moraine more and more difficult. This is why I commend this current council for their foresight and publicly support the motion to recognize the Oro-Moraine as a green infrastructure asset. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawrenson. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else registered?
Mr. Mayor, no, there are not.
Okay, so at this time, if there's anyone else in the chamber that would like to speak, please come to the mic, give your name, and proceed when ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Sandy Agnew, and I live in Ward 6, 1305 Scarlet Line. And I have to say, it's nice to see some familiar staff faces that were here a long time ago. So I just want to follow up on what Irina just said and strongly support this motion to identify the Oro-Moraine. I don't think any of you need any instruction on how important it is, but it's critical to the future of the water uses in not only the township, but the surrounding areas as well. So I want to speak in favor of that, and I hope that you will follow through and support that motion. And I'm looking forward to the next step in that. And if there's anything I can do to facilitate things, by all means, ask me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agnew. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in chamber at this time? Please come to the mic and announce your name, please, Mr. Baker.
You just did. Thank you. Alan Baker. I live in Ward 2. And in the spirit of one-upmanship, I've been here 50 years. And as I said in a letter earlier to council, it's probably moving our family here from what is now Mississauga was probably the best moves we've ever made. I won't go into that. So good afternoon, council, staff, and fellow residents. I appreciate this opportunity to share my views on the Oro-Moraine and the proposal before council today. I hope you don't mind me reading my notes. It keeps me centered. In the last few years, we've all experienced some tests of our mettle, both physically and mentally, yet here we are, a resilient bunch. Beginning on a positive note, you may also have read the article in Orillia today about a business victim of the downtown fire. The owner was faced with a force beyond his control, but demonstrated that success, not just survival, is possible through determination, perseverance, and community support. My takeaway was that wisdom, courage, and collaboration will often overcome adversity. Many of us here are committed to preserving and protecting the environment and the abundant natural resources of this beautiful township and region. The Oro-Moraine is a principal asset among many, as it's the critical source of our drinking water. The focus of my comments will be on that amazing resource. Some of the greatest risks to that asset, which Irina has mentioned, are intrusive development, housing, aggregate removal, and excessive water taking. The question for all of us is, what can we and the council who represent us do about it? I suggest be informed, ask questions, challenge poor decisions, and support good decisions. Gold Mountain Springs, a little-known commercial water taker, located on the dead end of Line 9 off of Horseshoe Valley Road, is just one example of the potential threats to that precious water source. The difference in their case is that unlike a broken water pipe, which at least leaves the water in the area, Gold Mountain Springs has been and continues to completely remove millions of liters of water from the Oro moraine every year. In fact, over 3 million. They do this legally and with the approval of the province, who increasingly places greater importance on development than environmental or natural resource protection. This is not a vendetta solely against Gold Mountain Springs. It's a not-so-short story as to what can be done regarding provincial directives and within our municipality's authority. In a word, collaborate on an agreed-upon goal. Many years ago at an OMB hearing, Chris Williams for the township and myself representing the community successfully opposed a proposal to build a bottling plant on the Gold Mountain Springs Line 9 well site. It wasn't only about the water, it was about the environment too. A major reason that OMB Chair Susan Fish ruled in our favor was that too little was known about the moraine at that time. But shortly thereafter, Azimuth Consultants in Barrie conducted a study of the moraine to establish its approximate boundaries and water capacity. The Oro moraine is large, but undoubtedly has limits as to how many drawdowns it can withstand. Do we really want to test that educated guess? The potential consequences of taking that path were well demonstrated by Bob Bowles in a presentation attended by this council shortly after being elected. The bottling plant proposal was denied by the OMB, but the MNR had already issued a permit to take water to Gold Mountain Springs to bulk transport water from their well. It allowed them to pump a maximum of 16 hours per day and remove approximately 850,000 liters per day, 365 days a year. That permit has been repeatedly renewed without any questioning by Oro-Medonte as to the sustainability and the cumulative effects of the water taking resulting from the township's continuous approval of developments on the moraine. A few examples include Braystone, Diamond Valley Estates, Eagle's Nest, and Eagle's Landing. Braystone and Diamond Valley Estates were 2 of 3 developments approved together after another challenge by the Jarrett Colson Group and Rowanwood groups at the OMB. Unfortunately, we lost that one. The current and revised permit now allows Gold Mountain Springs to pump from 2 wells, and that permit extends to 2031. They also self-report their water taking. Let that soak in for a minute. The issuance of permit to take water and the oversight of the cumulative taking is clearly the responsibility of the province. But Oro-Medonte is the approval authority for any and all developments within the boundaries. They are interrelated but separate. Over the years, several requests were made to strengthen the protective wording for the moraine in our official plan. But former planning staff assured us that what existed was sufficient. And
Mr. Baker, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, just because just so I know, do you have much longer? Because we were supposed to be to 2 minutes, but I don't want to cut you off, but I'm going to have to ask for leniency from council to extend it beyond the 2 minute. Is that okay for council? Everyone's in agreement to that? Yes? Okay. Okay. Thank you, please.
I'm almost done.
Okay,
actually.
thank you.
I'll start again. Over the years, several requests, not totally. Over the years, several requests were made to strengthen the protective wording for the moraine in our official plan. But former planning staff, the names I will not mention, assured us that what existed was sufficient. And council of the day showed no concern or interest in being better informed. That was then, and this is a completely different council and planning staff who seem prepared to move forward in better protecting the moraine. Not only its cherished environmental features, Also, it's water, which is extremely important to all of us. Acting in collaboration with Simcoe County, as proposed, is a great initiative and absolutely deserving of our collective support. Remember the broken pipe and other siphoning developments. They all have an effect. In closing, I suspect the council may also have an ulterior motive for acting at this time, but I'll leave that to your collective wisdom and foresight, given the annexation proposal we're facing currently. Thank you for listening and considering my thoughts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baker. Okay, is there anyone else in chamber who wishes to speak at this time? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we'll move on now to item 11E. May we have a draft motion for 11E, please?
Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Bard. Be it resolved, 1, that FI 2025-07 Shannon Johnson, Director of Finance, Chief Financial Officer, reauthorization for council representatives to enter discussions with the county regarding the Oro-Moraine be received and adopted. 2, that council authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to enter into discussions with the county of Simcoe to formally recognize the Oro-Moraine as a core municipal infrastructure asset and green infrastructure asset. 3, that the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, Severn Sound Environmental Association, County of Simcoe, and area municipalities surrounding the Oro-Moraine be advised of council's intention under the mayor's signature. And 4, that the mayor and deputy mayor report back to Township Council with the outcomes of these discussions to determine the role of the County of Simcoe / neighboring municipalities, and should council wish to proceed further with the initiative and the next steps outlined in the staff report.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And just I'll make one small comment in regards to this. You know, the Moraine is definitely one of our most important assets that we have as a township, and it's important that we do become good stewards and protect the resources we do have. And it's not just how it affects our residents, but also our neighboring municipalities, because we aquifer underneath that moraine, you know, affects all the townships that surround us. So I appreciate the deputy and Councillor Bard for motioning this and moving it to come forward, because I think it's important that we protect the resources we have. So that said, I will open the floor to the rest of the council members if there's any questions or comments at this time. Councillor Young.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to ask our Director of Waterworks there, Michelle. Michelle, is this inspected by us, or is it a provincial inspection that takes place?
Is that with regards to Gold Mountain Springs?
Yes.
We don't inspect any of that operation.
Because it's private, I suppose. And okay, thank you. That's all. Just the one question I want to ask you.
Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Yeah, I want to go on a streak here today. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank staff for responding to this request by myself and Councillor Bard to contemplate this as a natural asset underneath our asset management program. And I do think that there is fairly strong legislation that promotes this initiative, and I'm very hopeful that the county and the neighboring communities will recognize the importance of this natural asset to them as well as to us. I think, you know, we play on the moraine, we ski on it, we drink from it, we live on it, and I think ultimately we should respect it and preserve it. And so with that, I would just close up my remarks, and I'm looking very forward to entering into discussions with the parties named in the motion. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Young.
Yeah, I just have a comment. I guess given that this has taken place now, we deem it to be an asset.
I suppose until, we got, 6 years to go, I guess, until the current contract with the provincial government, if it is with the provincial government, expires. I guess from this point on, we can lobby the government, perhaps, to that we get total control of it. Don't know if that's a possibility, but it's something that certainly should be considered.
I think it would be more taking a open communication approach. Lobby sometimes has a negative connotation to it, but we would definitely, I think it's our responsibility to engage the province to identify the importance that it is not just to our township but the surrounding area. Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Yeah, if I might just respond to Councillor Young's comment. And I don't disagree, but I think our objective here is to follow the science and what the science tells us from a hydrogeological perspective. And from there, once we have a determination as to what the asset's value is and what its holdings are, then we can understand how to best use the asset and preserve the asset. Because, once you kill the goose, it no longer lays those golden eggs. So we don't want to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Hutchison.
Thank you. Thank you through you, Mayor Greenlaw. And I would agree with Deputy Mayor Lavoie, but not only getting to really understand what this asset is and protect that, but also give us a better understanding of where the development that we do need as a township should be taking place, because we can't lose sight of the fact that we do need to continue to grow our community. But my personal stance all along has been in a much more mindful and respectful way to the environment and to the marine as a whole.
Great point. Thank you. Councillor Young.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just one comment. Barrie gets their water source from Kempenfeld, and Aurelia gets it from Simcoe. But if that moraine is diminished to the point that perhaps the wells not dry up so much, but are really diminished, where do we then get our water from? That's the question. Where do we get our water from if I don't think it can be totally exhausted, but it's a thought. It's just a thought that we should all keep in mind.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Shell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you to the floor. Kempenfeld is not the only well that Barrie gets their water from. They have, I think, 6 or 7 other wells. And I'm an environmentalist, but I recall asking the question to the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation in Aurelia, or Lake Simcoe, about where all of our water flows to. And all of our water flowing from our moraines ends up going over Niagara Falls at 750,000 gallons per second. That's my only comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so, yes, Mr. Baker.
Could you indulge me, not for another 2 minutes, but I'd like to have to, in fact, address one of the questions.
Council, is that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, yeah, if you can make it brief, that'd be perfect, thank you.
Just a little bit of history, but to address Mr. Young's, I think, question about who's monitoring, who's watching the store. I mentioned that it's self-reporting. When the original permit was approved by the MNR, which is now MNRF, there were conditions attached. And there were 2 groups that challenged it. One was the township relative to the bottling plant, and our group, again, relative to the bottling plant. However, there was to be a communication between Gold Mountain Springs and the 2 parties who challenged them. And information on their drawdown, I believe on an annual basis, was provided originally to our group and to the township. That went on for a few years until Ed Hall, who was our engineer and had that communication, retired and moved to Texas. And when I inquired of the township to have a look at that a few years later, I realized that the township's engineer had retired and no one on staff knew there was even a file. So there is this big void. To my second point of asking questions, I think what the township should be doing, so for the reasons of comfort perhaps, is getting the information from the MNR. I did make a request a few years ago, identified myself as being part of the Jarrett Group, but I was told to file a Freedom of Information request. I think we know that dance. I think the township has the authority and certainly the need to have that information. To give you a metaphor, the glass of water is only so big, and there can only be so many straws in there before it draws down. So if you ask for a map, and this might surprise you, because I've seen one, but not recent, of the number of permits to take wells in this immediate area, and a lot of them related to Horseshoe Valley Road, I think you would be surprised. So it's a best guess as to how much is down there, and it's a best guess as to how much we can draw it down. And we rely on the experts like Azimuth. But the ministry says when you put forth an approval on a development, it's okay. But there's no comment beyond that. The request and the permit granting is posted on the MNRF website, and there's a 30-day window to make comments. Over the years, very few people, including the township, have made comments, and you have to have some pretty strong objections. And I'll only cite you one case, and then I'm wrapping up my time. The first permit...
Well, Ms. Smith, I appreciate all this information, but we're getting outside of what this is about. It's about giving permission for myself and the deputy to have discussions. So
okay.
I appreciate all that information. It's great background knowledge, and we can connect offline and have those discussions and meetings. But I want to get back to what's on the agenda, and that is for us to put the motion or the issue in motion. And so I appreciate all the comments and information.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, members of council, is there any more comments or points of discussion at this time? Seeing not, then you've heard the motion. Do you need it read again just so? Okay, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay. So now we'll go back to 11A. May we have a draft motion for 11A, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Bard. Be it resolved, one, that CS 2025-09 Jennifer Whitley, Economic Development Officer, read 2025 Economic Development Annual Work Plan be received and adopted. Two, that the 2025 Economic Development Annual Work Plan be approved as printed, as presented in Schedule A of CS 2025-09.
Thank you very much, members of council. I'll open the floor now if there's any questions for Ms. Whitley. Councillor Bard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Ms. Whitley. Thank you for this report. It's pretty important for these businesses. They've had a lot of struggles lately to have somebody to connect with at the township, and for you to be sort of a jack of all trades, knowing agriculture and mining and manufacturing and services. So a lot of balls to keep in the air. I was just wondering, what are you most excited about looking forward in the next year from this for something?
Through you, Mayor Greenlaw, to Councillor Bard, thank you for that. Appreciate it. There's definitely lots of opportunity and economic development. With what I'm most excited about, I mean, there's a number of different initiatives. I always love working and collaborating with the community directly, but the greater region, and all of those connections that we can pull together to support the business community. As council knows, we did have a report that came this spring, the Business Retention, Expansion and Attraction Project, that had a number of actions in it. So we were able to go through that document and pull out some key actions for the township to focus on this year. So really looking forward to digging into that and working through the work plan. But I would say some of those key actions include the agriculture community and a couple of things to support that.
that I'm really looking forward to learning more about and working directly with that community. We did already host a sector meeting with that group, and just pulling those people together in the room, hearing the vibe, hearing the connections was really important. We also did the same thing with the tourism sector about a month ago, which was a really key timing based on everything that's happened this spring with the ice storm, and just pulling everyone again together to have those conversations, learn about partnerships and connections was key. So I would say those are a couple of things. In the plan, we do have other sector groups that are planned for later this year. So looking forward to doing that, as well as some of the other key initiatives with engaging with the business community. So that came out of the business retention, expansion, attraction project again, to continue to do that. And then a couple others, just that facilitating and supporting the development of the industrial lands within the municipality and those key players and what their plans are with those lands and making those connections, and continuing to be a resource hub for the business community to connect them to everyone. So, yeah.
Thank you. Supplemental?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sort of a follow-up then. So you're providing some of these connections for the businesses, and I like graphs and maps and data and such. So there's a lot of data available. I guess sort of two questions. One's more general, and then one's a little bit more specific. So how do the businesses use some of this data that's out there? And then I guess the second follow-up question, more specific, is it looks like our unemployment numbers seem to be fairly high, and our participation rates seem to be fairly low. I was just wondering, is that sort of common with other municipalities in our region, or is this something that we should be concerned about? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so through Mayor Greenlaw to Councillor Bard, and the specific questions, I may answer them in the opposite order, but hopefully I get them all. So with regards to unemployment rates, so I did look back at some other municipalities that are within the Simcoe County region just to do a comparison. So currently, the Oro-Medonte employment rate is at 10.9%. So looking at a couple of the other municipalities, Springwater, Ramera, Tiny Tay as examples, Severn Township, their unemployment rates ranged anywhere from 10% to 14%. So I would say we kind of fall in that range for sure. So we're not outside of that by any means. And I also looked at the Simcoe County one. Now I'm not 100% sure how they pull their stats. It's saying that Simcoe County is 7.4%, but that likely includes the city of Barrie. So it's a little bit lower, but there's a higher population there as well, and a concentration of employment opportunities. So just to give some comparison. And you also asked about participation rate. So that also we fall in line. Looking at other municipalities within Simcoe County range, again, anywhere from 53% to 69%. And currently the township stats are showing at 63%. So again, falling within that middle range. So I hope that clarifies that. And then with regards to the data that is available, so within the council report, I put a number of links to information that's found on the township's website relating to different types of data points that are available. So, I mean, our own staff uses that information quite frequently for a number of different things, but also the businesses in the community are looking for that type of information. As examples, in the past, I've had inquiries from businesses that are looking for government funding. So then they take the data profile from the township and use that towards their application. I've also had businesses that are moving to the municipality and are trying to encourage their staff to come with them, and they use information out of the community profile and the data profile to share with their own staff as data points and information for themselves. So there's been a number of different reasons for using the data. We also use it, obviously, from our own standpoint in economic development to see where things are at and in comparison across the province. So I hope that helps. The community profile is available in a PDF print format that we do have available to give out. It's a beautiful color copy, but everything else is available on the website. I will just say the Town Folio is an interactive automated by census data. So there is no updating from township staff or time that's spent on that, just really to
put the Oro-Medonte brand on there and share that information out there, but all communities have access to that. They just decide how much they want to use that information. So it's definitely a great tool. And one other that I didn't link in there is there's the Simcoe County data landing page that has a number of different profiles for data within Simcoe County with regards to housing, childcare services, but there's also economic development in there. Unfortunately, the county can't give us a direct link for Oro-Medonte, but if anybody else is interested in any further data, you can go into that portal, and there's a number of different data sets that are in there that you can do in comparators from Simcoe County to each municipality. So just wanted to share that as well. Thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you very much. Ms. Whitley, Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Ms. Whitley for her leadership through all of this preparation and planning and the work plan and the creation of performance indicators and things like that. I mean, this has been a big project to get this off the ground, a lot of work, and incorporating the agricultural community objectives in here is, I think, a big shift and a very important shift for our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time? A couple of simple closed-ended questions, No. So how much industrial land do we have zoned that is not developed at this time? Not much. That's like
Through you, Mayor Greenlaw. Yeah. I don't have that data available. Okay. We do have. It's on our on the BREA action plan. There is a map at the end of that report, but I'm happy to pull it and send it to council. But there has been significant development in the last number of years, especially at the Line 4 Guthrie Industrial Park that I spoke to within the report. So that land is filling quickly. There, however, is still several parcels that are available along Hollick Road. And then there's a couple of other parcels that are along Highway 11 that are still sitting vacant. I can't put a number to it right now, but we are tracking that annually to give an update on how much land will be left at the end of each year.
Do we have any 500-acre parcels sitting vacant right now?
Not that are zoned appropriately.
No, just it was a question, that's all. I know it's a shortage everywhere, so I didn't think we were sitting on it at this point in time. Okay, any other questions? You've heard the motion. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. May we have a draft motion for 11B, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Lavoie. Be it resolved, 1, that DS 2025-048, Brianna Belcourt, Policy / Special Projects Planner, Replanning Application Notification Review, be received and adopted. 2, that staff proceed with option 2, Enhanced Planning Application Dashboard and use of social pinpoint.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Excellent report, Brianna. Very detailed, and I want to thank you for all the hard work you've put into it. Do you want me to have council ask questions, or did you want to speak to anything at this point?
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. I can provide a brief overview, or we can go right to questions from council, whatever you prefer.
Actually, if you don't mind giving a brief overview, because it is a very detailed report. If you don't mind, that'd be fantastic.
Thank you. So last year, council carried motion C-2404-1013, directing staff to investigate practices adopted by other municipalities in Ontario regarding the notification of individuals who have made comment during statutory public meetings related to zoning matters. So this would come after public meeting, prior to recommendation being considered by council, when not done on the same evening. The report before council identifies the statutory requirements, and it describes Oro-Medonte's current practices, as well as summarizes the findings of the investigation and presents 3 options for council's consideration. So Option 1 is status quo. We would maintain the same current state of affairs that we have today, which is meeting statutory requirements with some enhancements. Option 2 would be an enhanced planning application dashboard, would be enhancing the planning application dashboard and use of social pinpoint, two tools that are currently available to us and are utilized or are to be utilized. And then the third option would be providing an additional direct notice, either by email or mail, to interested parties prior to a recommendation coming back to council. So the report outlines both like the benefits and then the concerns or challenges with each of the options. And as a result, staff is recommending option number 2. So proceeding with the enhanced planning application enhancements to the planning application dashboard and use of social pinpoint. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions or elaborate further if needed.
Thank you very much, Ms. Belcourt. Council, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments at this time. Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Were there any financial impacts to these options? Please, thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you to Deputy Mayor Lavoie. Option 3 does come with some minor financial impacts due to the additional postage and mail that would be required.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Bard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So thank you so much for this, because I think the spirit that was brought forward, I believe it was from Councillor Clark earlier, is that the public comes, they say their piece and they think that they're going to be kept in the loop, and maybe some of them felt that they weren't. So are they going to be encouraged to sign up, I guess, at these meetings to get into this pinpoint app so they'll receive those notifications, so that there is some responsibility on their part to follow through to get these notifications as well? Correct?
Yes. So through you, Mayor Greenlaw, to Councillor Bard, with option 2, staff is suggesting that we do a bit of an education piece with the communications department. So utilizing perhaps a social media campaign to advertise where residents or stakeholders can find information on planning applications, as well as updating our current notices that we send out, just to include information about where you can follow along with an application, as well as perhaps updating the script on those DSC meeting nights so we can remind everybody where they can follow along.
Perfect. Thank you very much. CAO Benz.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. I just wanted to comment. You'll recall late last year we passed the council passed the engagement policy. We're now in the process of rolling out social pinpoint, so that'll come in the next within the next month, and there'll be a campaign not only on planning applications but on some of the larger files that will be of public interest, encouraging people to follow the website. And the tool also provides a push notification and a subscription component that we're also reviewing further, so people can subscribe to different elements and then receive push notifications as those things come out. So we're pretty excited about launching this, and I think that the work the planning team has put together here really just augments the overall objective of engagement in the planning processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I totally agree, and I know all council does. When everything comes together, it's kind of nice to see how far we move along. So we've heard the motion. I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. And Madam Clerk, may we have a motion for item 11C?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Shell. Be it resolved, 1, that OCS 2025-08, Roz Llewellyn, Manager, Community Services, Renew Community Center name be received and adopted. 2, that Council endorse the proposed name for the new community center located on Horseshoe Valley Road East as being the Simcoe Woods Community Center.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Council members, floor is open if anyone has any comments. Councillor Shell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. That is just for the community center, or what about the school? Are they involved with this decision as well?
My understanding is the community center is what we named, and the school board names the school. So it's up to the school board to name the school, and they have a set of criteria that they have to align with as part of the process. And did you want to add anything to that, CAO Binns? Because I know you've been a part of that school project from day one.
No, except for you are correct, and another project that we're excited to see come to fruition. It has been a long time coming. We've been talking about this for many years, so I think it will be a really exciting thing for the township. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so everyone's heard the motion. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Madam Clerk, may we have a motion for draft motion for 11D, please?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Clark. Be it resolved, 1, that OCS 2025-09, Dylan Flannery, Director, Operations and Community Services, read 2025 Boots and Hearts and All Your Friends Festivals special event permits be received and adopted. 2, that the Director of Operations and Community Services be authorized to execute an appropriate memorandum of understanding with Burroughs Creek / Republic Live for the 2025 All Your Friends Festival and Boots and Hearts event. 3, that staff be authorized to issue a special event permit for the 2025 All Your Friends Festivals and Boots and Hearts upon receipt of A, agency endorsement of the operations plans in accordance with the township's special event bylaw. B, an executed memorandum of understanding. 4, that Burroughs Creek Event Grounds be informed of council's decision under the Director of Operations and Community Services signature.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Council, any questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. We've done 11E already, so we're on to reports of municipal officers for information only. Mr. Van McCord, would you like to provide a summary and comments for 12, please? Sorry, Councillor Schell.
Yeah, did I hear you went to reports from council representatives and then jumped to 12A?
Well, well, 12A, there is only one item under 12. It's 12A. My apologies.
Okay, I've excused myself on that one.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. My apologies if I wasn't clear.
Okay.
Mr. Van Buncourt, thank you for the report, and when you're ready, please proceed.
Thank you, Worship. Good afternoon, members of council. You have my information report dealing with the feedback that the township received on the draft licensing bylaw. In the body of the report is a summary of the various comments received, and an appendix to the report is a fulsome list of the comments received. I'd like to thank the members of the public that responded, not only at the public consultation meeting, but afterwards through correspondence to the municipality. We've taken the feedback and we've addressed the feedback as outlined in the report. We're prepared to make some changes to the draft licensing bylaw, but they're not significant changes. They're fairly straightforward changes, and we plan to bring a further report back to council in July with respect to the new bylaw, a new draft bylaw, and further highlighting the changes. In the report, there's a section dealing with planning comments, and we did hear from individuals reviewing the licensing bylaw, both at the public meeting and subsequent, about planning related matters. One of them had to do with short-term rental accommodations operating in the rural area and how to address those. Those individuals have been operating short-term rentals for a period of time for transient farm workers, for people interested in a farm experience, with real no issues from any of those short-term rentals. And so we're investigating in terms how to best deal with those. Outlined in the report is the concept of a farm-related use as a secondary use to a farm, which is permitted under the OMAFRA guidelines and under the provincial planning statement. So we're going to explore that, and a further report is going to come forward to council on that. And there was also comments with respect to the OLT and divisional court decision with respect to the township's introduction of a definition of commercial accommodation and that decision and what it actually means. And there, it's a difficult decision to interpret. The municipality has interpreted it in a particular way, supported by legal counsel. Members of the community, some members of the community interpret it differently, and I think I'll just leave it at that in terms of moving forward. As part of the subsequent planning report, we'll address that more fully. Your Worship, I'd like to conclude by again thanking members of the public that provided comment, and it was very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Vancour. I'll open the floor up for any members of council with questions or comments at this time. Councillor Young.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vancour. Basically, Ward 6 is rural farms, and you've clarified that it's still being addressed, it's still being looked at in terms of the short-term rentals or for farm workers and that. So I've been asked, and it was expressed at the meeting there at the arena by several farmers. So the bottom line is still being looked at, still being addressed by you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young, for your comments. Any other comments? Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and through you to staff, planning staff in general, and to Mr. Vadbancourt in particular. Thanks for holding and moderating those public meetings. That was very important for public to be able to comment on this, and we've taken in those public comments, and we remain open to changes as public comments are made. So with that, we look forward to the ongoing reporting coming through on the bylaw, official plan, and licensing bylaw adjustments. So thanks again.
Thank you for your comments, Deputy. Anyone else have anything to say at this time? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that has carried. Good job. We color coordinate them, not just the writing, right? So, yeah, please bring Councillor Schell back in now. Councillor Bard. We'll just wait for Councillor Schell to get reseated, and then we'll move on to reports and announcements of members of council. Thank you, Councillor Schell. Welcome back. So we're now at item 13, reports and announcements of members of council. Are there any updates from members of council as township representatives of our partners or agencies? Councillor Bard.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just like to update that the Chamber of Commerce is starting to get the wheels moving. We've had hosted a BA6 a couple of weeks ago. We had our AGM last week, and there's another Business After 6 coming next week, actually. So it's good to see some momentum going.
Good, thank you. And I believe the next one's in a couple of weeks, is it not, at Horseshoe Resort?
It's at Ego's next.
Ego's, okay.
I think it's Thursday, but could be Tuesday. I got to do some math in my head here, but I think it's Thursday.
Okay. Thank you. Any other, Councillor Shell?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you to the public and all here present. Just a reminder that I got an email from the Hawkstone Hall asking me to take part in their Canada Day parade on Canada Day. And I don't know what the time is. I don't see it in the report. Does anybody here? I didn't get the time, the start time for it. I'll have to reach out.
I want to say it's either, I think it's either noon or 1. But I will follow up, and because we'll have one meeting before that event, and I think I would encourage everybody who has not replied back of attending, please respond. It's a great event. It's a great community event. That's not just Hawkstone and Ward 5. It's the entire township. So the more participants we have from council there, I think sends a great message, and it is a great event to mingle with the residents of the township.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, for your input on that. I have two other ones, just briefly. The Orillia Lake Country and Physicians Recruitment want to thank the township. They will be sending out a letter of our donation to the cause of $10,192. And further to that, just a note, it's a short one here. It's a letter. As you may have heard, the province announced today that they are making it easier for U.S.-trained physicians to work in Ontario. There's a news release on that on the Ontario website. This is great news to aid in the licensing delays at the provincial level. It is important to note American citizens will still be required to go through the immigration process if they are not Canadian. And on behalf of the committee, we have sent a letter to Mayor McIsaac to request assistance in bringing forward an urgent matter for Premier Ford regarding physician licensing regulations in Ontario, which outlines the need to expand this change to also include other approved jurisdictions such as Australia, the United Kingdom, and Ireland. This is especially important as we have a local Orillia resident trained in Australia, which is delaying care to residents in our community.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of items from the County Council agenda that I'd like to bring to the attention of the community at large. One was, this is last Tuesday's meeting, yesterday, that they did undertake a report, or did receive a report with regard to the proposed Barrie boundary expansion and the impact on Simcoe County, its tax base, etc., and its assets. And its economic development plans and other matters. The council of the county did authorize staff to go ahead with further reporting and further involvement, and the county has agreed to undertake a more proactive approach with regard to their involvement in these discussions with regard to the boundary adjustment should one take place. There is included within there a rather extensive report, I think 150 pages or so, by the Midhurst Landowners Group, which the community should pay some note to. Also, there was in addition to that, there was some commentary and a report on the Unleashing Our Economy Act, Bill 5, and Bill 17 to protect Ontario by building faster and smarter. So the county has commented on those bits of provincial legislation as well, and what do they mean to the county. So knitting those together with the responses of the township would be important. So I just want to make those comments because they are important changes to the structure of planning as it takes place in this municipality. And there are impacts with regard to the annexation and asset holdings of the county and the township. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor LeBlanc. And one thing I just will add to the deputy's comments is the county has asked for an extension to the end of November because they need to take some studies and findings on themselves. So they said they would need at least until November 30th, and do not feel that the timeline that the province has set out in a letter to Springwater Township of September, the end of September being a deadline to have a decision made. So no, I shouldn't say a decision, but the framework in the decision in close proximity to a closure. So, and Councillor Hutchison.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. Through you, not necessarily an update from any of the committees I'm on, but I did want to recognize that June is Pride Month, and I was very pleased to see that we are flying the Pride flag here at the township in recognition of the following. The flag represents the achievements and contributions of the LGBTQ plus individuals and remembers and honors those who have been lost to violence or AIDS. It spotlights the ongoing need for equality and inclusion and celebrates the diversity of the LGBTQ plus community. And I'm very pleased that we are so inclusive and accepting of the community, and something I'm very proud of.
Thank you very much. Great comments. Anyone else at this time? So just as a reminder, Canada Day is coming up rapidly, but we'll bring all those festivities to the next meeting. Okay, so now we will move on to consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anyone would like to be polled for discussion? Seeing none, is there anything anyone needs to make a comment on from the consent agenda, the items that are there?
Yeah.
G, you'd like G polled?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, please. G.
Okay. Okay. Any other items? Okay. So, Madam Clerk, can we pull item G and we'll correspond? So you know what? Let's just go to G now. We'll do the approval. Or do you want to receive the consent agenda before separately, with the exception of G, or just do them all after we speak to item G?
Either or, Mr. Mayor. That's sufficient.
Well, let's do it just one motion at the end. And so, if Deputy Mayor LeBlanc, would you please feel free to proceed?
Thank you very much, sir. I just wanted to comment on the TAPMO letter that was sent to the Standing Committee on the Interior. There's a great deal of concern by TAPMO, this is the top aggregate producing municipalities of Ontario, that that has been a practice. Oh, I see my camera's acting up. There has been a practice of the some of the aggregate pits across Ontario to use their facilities or their sites to house industrial activities that may or may not be related to the extraction of aggregate. So the aggregate community or the municipalities have become concerned that these could be homes for further expansion of these activities through the changes in the planning legislation. So I did want to make this point. I only wanted to bring this letter out because we have as many aggregate pits as we do, and that's something that the community should be aware of in case this tendency arrives here in Oro-Medonte. So thank you very much for the extraction of that letter.
Thank you. Any comments, anything else to discuss in this matter? No? Okay, Madam Clerk, can we please have a motion to receive the consent agenda, please?
And just to confirm that item 14G, the staff recommendation to receive for information only, is that still to remain the same? So we're passing the consent agenda in whole as is. Thank you. Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Young, be it resolved that the staff recommendations with respect to the items listed under consent agenda correspondence be adopted as printed.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All in favor? And that is carried. Item 15, communication petitions. 15A was deferred at the May 14, 2025 council meeting to come back to today's meeting. Members of council, are there any comments? Composition. Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Yes, I'd like to defer it again until the next meeting. The reason being that I have some documents that I wish to submit with it. Unfortunately, I didn't realize it was on the agenda until it was too late to submit the documents for the agenda. So with that, I would move that we defer it to the next meeting, which is the 25th of June, and at that time I can include those documents that were circulated by myself to the councillors of County Council and to the Governance Committee of County Council for public contemplation as well as for the benefit of our council. So I have asked Councillor Hutchison to second that motion, and she has agreed to do so. So with that, I'd like to put that motion on the floor.
Okay. And I just so council knows, county has asked for a response. This is the voting to decide composition of council, of whether we remain at 32 or we reduce to 16, plus a full-time warden. So that gives us 5 days leniency before it has to be into the county office. So I'm fine with it. So Madam Clerk, could we have that motion on the floor and we can deal with it, and if it's successful, then we can move forward.
Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Hutchison. Be it resolved that the correspondence dated April 24, 2025 from Jonathan McGill, County Clerk, Director of Statutory Services and Archives, County of Simcoe, request to consider consent of County of Simcoe Bylaw 7119-25 to change the composition to County Council be deferred to the June 25th, 2025 council meeting for response to the County of Simcoe by the June 30th, 2025 deadline.
Okay, everyone's heard the motion. All in favor? That is carried. So we'll see that at the next meeting. We're now at 15B, correspondence dated May 26, 2025 from Rebecca Carrick, Secretary Treasurer, Couchiching OPP Detachment Board, regarding the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards Conference, June 3rd to 5th, 2025. May we have a motion for this item, please?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Lavoie. Be it resolved, one, that the correspondence dated May 26, 2025 from Rebecca Carrick, Secretary Treasurer, Couchiching OPP Detachment Board, Ontario Association of Police Services Boards, OAPSB Conference, London, June 3rd to 5th, 2025 be received. Two, that Councillor Young and Kathy Clark as the Township Representatives be authorized to attend.
Okay. Any comments or questions regarding this matter? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. We have no notice of motions, and so we're at 17A for bylaws. Members of council, are there any comments, or may we have a draft motion for the bylaw, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Young. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-050 be passed in open council the 11th day of June 2025.
All in favor? That is carried. So may we have a motion to go into closed session now, please, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Bard. Be it resolved that we do now go into closed session at 4:49 p.m. to discuss litigation affecting the municipalities, lister client privilege, short-term rentals, STRs.
All in favor? That is carried, so we'll see everybody in closed. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. May we have a motion to rise and report out, please?
Moved by, oh dear, I think it's me, moved by Clark, seconded by Shell. Be resolved that we do now rise at 6:15 p.m. and report on closed session item 18B.
All in favor? That is carried. And may we have a motion for in open for item B, please?
Moved by Young, seconded by Hutchison. Be it resolved that the confidential correspondence presented by Sean Binns, Brent Spagnol, and George Fetabancourt re litigation affecting the municipality, solicitor-client privilege, short-term rentals, STRs be received, and 2, that staff and legal counsel proceed as directed by council.
All in favor? That is carried. May we have a draft motion for the confirmation bylaw, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Shell. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-053, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on Wednesday, June 11, 2025, be passed in open council the 11th day of June, 2025.
All in favor? That is carried. May we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Clark. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 6:17 p.m.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great evening and the rest of the week.